The financial part of retirement can be scary. You only get one bite at the apple, and many people are worried about the financial mistakes that they may make that could sabotage a lifetime of working and saving for this one moment. I've spent my entire adult life working as a financial advisor, and in that time, I've spent thousands of hours helping people plan their retirements, and I've seen firsthand the things that work and the things that don't. Today, you're going to get all that experience in about 12 minutes. I'm going to give you the top 5 things to avoid in retirement so that you don't make those same mistakes. I'll also give you the top hidden costs retirees consistently underestimate, and then I'll give you a framework you can use to make certain that it doesn't creep into your retirement. More on that in a second, but first, let's go ahead and get started. You guys remember the infomercial with Set It and Forget It? I don't even remember what it was an infomercial for, but it could have been for a retirement investment plan. Here's the thing. You have to set it first. Don't just roll into retirement with your pre-retirement investment plan because that's trash. It's not built for retirement. It was built for accumulation. It's like driving a snowmobile on the interstate. Even in the winter, it's a bad idea. So you got to set it first. Get an investment plan that's tailored to you, designed to efficiently convert your assets into the income that you'll need to minimize your taxes and to provide enough growth to help you last for 30 to 40 years. For my early retirees, that last one can't be overestimated. If you're retiring in your 50s, for sure, you got to have a plan. But the catchphrase isn't just set it. You've also got to set it and forget it. And I don't mean put it in a drawer and never think of it again. But once you've created your plan, you have to let the plan work. Don't go chasing returns or the latest investment fad. Stick to the script. I guess set it and forget it isn't exactly perfect here, but set it and then mildly tweak it without making major disruptive changes to it throughout your retirement sounds way less catchy. So we're going to stick with set it and forget it. And that, my friends, is number 1. The second big mistake, a recent study by Fidelity stated that the average 65-year-old will spend $157,500 on healthcare in retirement. That's assuming that they have Medicare. That's on top of Medicare. Here's the mistake. There aren't a ton of retirements that can just eat $157,000 in unplanned expenses without accounting for them at the outset. You got to make a plan for healthcare costs. Now, that doesn't mean you need a whole $157,000 on day one to cover the costs, but you also can't just sort of lump it in with everything else with your regular income needs and assume that you'll figure it out. The fix here is to start funding an HSA account if you haven't done so already. Most healthcare plans these days are HSA compatible, and the money that goes into them is triple tax free, meaning you can deduct your contributions, much like a traditional IRA. It grows tax deferred like other retirement accounts, but here's the kicker. If you use it for healthcare costs on the backside, it's also spent tax free. It's the single most tax advantaged money in our retirement system, yet I still see lots of folks who are eligible and they don't have an HSA account. Even if you're a little late to the game here, find out if you're eligible and start maxing that thing out as soon as possible. In 2025, that means a maximum family contribution of $8,550 with an extra $1,000 if you happen to be over 55. So even if you have nothing in one right now, you can get it cranked up really quickly. The third one, there's an old Irish proverb. We aren't here for a long time. We're here for a good time. Keep that in mind when it comes to retirement. I say it a lot, but most of us, myself included, walk around daily like we have an unlimited amount of time, and we don't. Make sure that you're living your life. Find a way to maximize your retirement time. Now, this means different things for different people. For some people, it means retiring early and never working another day in their life. For some, it means retiring and spending time with family. For others, it means volunteering. Here's what it shouldn't be. The mistake is people continue to work and save and invest when they've already reached the level of enough instead of retiring and starting to live their life on their terms, instead of trying to sandwich their life in around what's left after their job. Now, I talk about this all the time, so I feel like I have a pretty good handle on it, but just last week, I talked to a guy who watches the channel, Carlos. Shout out to you, Carlos, if you're watching right now. Carlos retired early. He's living a good life. He had some financial questions, so he reached out, and in talking with me, he said, I'm not trying to do money, I'm trying to do life. That's a beautiful phrase. That's a great way to describe how I'd like you to think about all of this. The money is a means to an end. The time is the resource that you can't get more of. The mistake here that I see people making is spending the time to get more money that they'll never spend. Don't do money, do life. By the way, if you've been here before, you probably already know this, but I'm a financial advisor. I specialize in helping folks retire early and make a money plan that works for them. If you're closing in on retirement and you're looking for some help making your plan, check out the description of the video where you can set up a time for us to chat and see how we can help you. The fourth mistake, it's another old saying that comes to mind. Comparison is the thief of joy. Well, not only is that true, but in addition to stealing joy, comparison is also out there sinking many retirements. Plan your work and work your plan. Understand what's right for you, what you can live with, what you can't live without, and then stick with it. It doesn't matter that Tommy just bought a new Cadillac or that Joe is going on another trip to Bermuda. If that's you and you've got the means to do it and that's on your bucket list, by all means do it. But don't live a retirement of comparison. There's two things that you got to consider here. One, everyone is in their own unique situation, and what's right for you is right for you. And two, trust me, you have no idea what's behind the curtain here. You may see someone with all the trappings of success. They got the big car, they got the huge house. You have no idea that that person may be spending their last dollar trying to convince people how fancy they are. Some of the wealthiest people I've ever met look like they couldn't upsize a value meal at McDonald's. Meanwhile, the guy with the $100,000 Mercedes is like 2 missed paychecks away from having that thing towed out of his driveway. You do you, as they say nowadays. Comparison is of no benefit to you and your retirement, and keeping up with the Joneses is often a one-way ticket to the poorhouse. Number 5 is going to sound a little backward, given what I just said in number 4, but this is the other side of the same coin. As much as overspending to keep up with others is a bad idea, not spending is not the answer either. This is a tough one. You spend your whole life saving for the future and putting away money that's not to be touched, just over there. And then you get to retirement and all of a sudden you're supposed to be fine with spending that money. The natural inclination of a saver is to do without to preserve that money. You have to be reasonable for sure, but not spending is not the answer. I've seen far too many people die with way more money than they need and a long list of regrets. They never took the trip to Italy, not taking the grandkids to Disney, not buying the ribeye and instead getting the sirloin. It comes back to a plan. Give your money jobs and then use the right money for the right job. Make sure you're living and enjoying that money. It's literally what you put the money away for. Now, I think here most folks don't want to spend because they're scared that they'll run out. And while that's a valid point, you can plan for that to make sure that it doesn't happen and to understand what you can spend and what you can do. Don't be a spendthrift, but also don't end up with a big pile of cash and a bigger pile of regrets late in retirement when it's too late to do those things. Pretty soon, tomorrows become yesterdays. Make sure that you're making the most of them. Now, I told you I'd also talk about the biggest cost that I see people missing when they're building out their plans, and here it is. It's very common these days for kids to move away from home. They grow up, they move out, they move across the country. And that's okay. You happen to see them periodically every now and then the grandkids arrive. And all of a sudden, the 1 or 2 times you were seeing them isn't going to cut it anymore. Here's the tricky part. Traveling 3, 4, 6 times a year to see the grandkids, it's a beautiful thing, but it's also a very expensive thing. For some reason, people don't really think about this expense. And oftentimes, we get down to it and we realize they're spending $10,000 or $15,000 a year traveling to see the grandkids. First of all, that's awesome. Do that, but plan for it. Get a line item in the retirement plan for that travel. Give that job to some of the money. Don't just lump it in there with the rest of the stuff and then underestimate the actual cost, because depending upon how tight the plan is, that can make for some big problems down the road. While this is the big one, when you're building out your plan, also think about some of the other big ticket expenses that you might have that you don't specifically think about because they're just part of your life, and make sure that they are part of your plan also. Speaking of plans, you heard me talk about giving different money, different jobs a couple of times in the video here. That becomes very important when you're planning your retirement. If you want to see how to do just that, check out this video right over here.